Hello, welcome. Today we're going to learn how to make a Christmas wreath out of foraged foliage and some dogwood or willow branches. This is some dogwood that was growing in my garden. Most of the time people actually leave them up for Christmas or leave them up for the winter because they have a beautiful red colour, but I actually cut them down because I wanted to use them for basket making next year, and I also wanted to try making wreaths this year. So I'm going to show you how I use these and some foraged foliage and some metal wire and snips to make your own wreaths. Fairly low cost, actually no cost if you have everything. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. These are some of the tools I used. This is just a secateurs that I used to cut and snip the stems off of the dogwood. I also have an old scissors which I actually used to cut the wire. This is some very flexible wire. I honestly can't remember where I bought it. It's kind of like jewellery wire, but it is grey. I also have these, which are actually floristry stems. So these are handy for attaching pine cones. I didn't actually find any pine cones yet, so I'm just going to be using this wire to wrap around the leaf, wreath to attach the foliage. I'm also putting on some gloves, just in case, because I am actually allergic to all of nature, so it seems. So I am just putting on gloves for safety, but also it helps because like some of the holly is prickly. I've got thicker gloves to put on for when I'm dealing with the prickly stuff, but this is mainly for safety from sap and things like that if you're allergic. So we want to find the longest branch that we have. If you find longer, excellent. And there's a whippy end, a small thin end, and a thicker end. And what I tend to do is actually bend the thicker end a little bit, just to give it a little bit, like break up some of those little stanchions in there. That feels better. So what I do is, now this is going to be quite a small wreath because I used all the the longer ones to make bigger ones, but what I'm going to do is just overlap them and actually just get a small, this is how I do it now, how I figured it out yesterday. So if there's a better way, please tell me, your basket makers. But as this is only for the Christmas season, it's not meant to last long term. So I'm going to get like a small little whippy, kind of really flexible bendy one, and I'm just going to literally fold that down across it. This is kind of using macrame techniques, and literally just whip it around. And that tends to hold it. And then I'm going to just bring that through and sort of shove it through, if you know what I mean. Basically just tie a little knot with the wood. So this is actually fresh. If you have, I think you can buy like willow stalks and stuff. If you can buy those, you soak them to get the little bit of a bend in them. And that's made a little knot. So yay, that's fairly sturdy now. So I'm delighted with that. So the next section now is to just bring it across, because sometimes this can result in a kind of an oval shape, but I managed to do that really well actually, just for the camera. Now these long ones, this would have been a good base one actually as well, so I'm just going to keep that just in case I want to make some more. And I'm just going to basically wrap and wrap and wrap again. And wrap them so they'll kind of hold. Now you can also, the more you put into it, the more you can kind of actually attach on, and then you follow on, and you just, I overlap by about maybe what, 8 inches. I'll put those out of the way, they probably are a bit distracting, sorry. So I probably overlap, but it's probably a foot, to be honest. I don't know my measurements at all. And when you wrap the next bit, you're actually going to catch that tail, if you see what I mean, as you go around. And that's staying in really nicely. That little tail, we're just going to follow it around. I tend to use a thick end to start, and I hold that, and the whippy end then is much easier to bend. So I'm just going to attach. You'll kind of figure it out yourself. It is very intuitive after a while. I tend to wrap in the same direction, just because I think it turns out really nice. I think it looks really nice when you do it like that. It has a lovely little kind of twist, which is very nice. So you can wrap any way you want, any way at all, but I tend to wrap in the same direction. And maybe that's because I'm a spinner and in my head I'm like, if everything wraps together then it'll hold together. But again, basket makers, tell me what's actually right, because I don't really know what I'm doing. But this one is turning out really cute. I've made about 7 or 8 now, and I think the more you make, the better you get. And the thing about if you forage, you often end up with way more than you actually need. So these dogwoods actually need to be really pruned really well every year. So you actually do get lots of these branches every year. But I just found out from Gardener's World that you're actually supposed to do it in March. So I'm like, oh dear, I hope I haven't damaged the tree. Be grand. So sometimes you'll get a section where there's a couple of different bits lying out. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add another bit. And then I am going to do another little whippy stitch. I'm going to call it a whippy stitch, but we're not using yarn. So these little small thin branches are fantastic for kind of doing the little whippy stitch, as I call it. I found anyway. So I'm gonna I'm gonna use the small end to wrap it down that way, and then we'll see if this works. I think it will. So if you see what I did there, I folded this, I started down this way, then I went up, and then I went down and around. So it kind of gives me that loop, so nothing else is sticking out. And then I can kind of grab these parts together. Now this is a bit thicker. So actually what I'm going to do is tuck it in. If it will, I don't know if it will or not now. Tuck it in through there. And that is super secure now. That's not going to move. So that's great. So I'm just going to keep adding here. And I am going to make it nice and strong, because I want it to last at least a month. These might last longer, but because they're fresh, they will shrink over time. So, and it will get looser then because of that. So, and then also what you can do is if you've got that little whippy stitch, you can just whippy end, you tie it through, and then you can almost tie a knot on itself. Like that's pretty good. Okay, so that's what we have. So we're going to go with that, and I'm going to start adding on my foliage now. So what type of foliage are we going to use? This is another one that I made, slightly bigger. actually are they're very slightly bigger. So I got some pine, which smells amazing. I have some ivy as well. I just took a little bit. Again, when you're foraging, don't take too much. And I cut off these rose hips off of the rose bush on my land. Now, rose hips you can take as many as you want because they come off a plant, but these ones are particularly lovely. They look like little tomatoes actually. And then holly. Now I have checked about holly, and the berries are poisonous, and also the leaves and the stems can be poisonous when they are very young. Now in winter there actually are no berries because the berries aren't in season in winter, and the leaves are not poisonous because they're older. So good, but berries can be very poisonous to animals, all animals and humans. So watch out. These can be itchy. That's all I know. But these rose hips can be made into really great tonics because they have loads of vitamin C. And rose hips come from a rose plant, a rose bush. Some roses that are like highly bred don't actually make rose hips, and you'll get a better rose hip from wild roses. These ones, I don't know. I moved into this property and I actually don't have a clue what type of roses they are, but they're kind of a rambling rose. Anyway, they were beautiful. So next step now is to start adding, and the way I add, this light is actually awful. I wonder, can I do something about that? There we go. Beautiful. Sorted. So the way I add is based on a couple of different YouTube videos that I saw. So basically I bundle up together some bits and bobs, and you get a couple of bundles. I like to put the rose hips on the front because they're nice, and then you attach them by the wire. So you wrap the wire around, and you just tie it off. But yeah, so I'm just going to wrap that nice and tight, and it's nice to have it on the spool actually because it's really easy to, there we go. This also then secures all of your dogwood. Now on this one, I'm actually not going to cover the red because it's just such a beautiful color. So I'm just going to do like a little flare at the bottom. Now what you can also do is actually stick in the plants right into the wreath a little closer. And I'm just going to really anchor this first one here. There we go. Now that feels a bit more secure. So again, a few bundles of bits and bobs, and the fuller the better really. Now I have a lot of holly, which is actually quite big. So I'm going to use smaller holly because then you can kind of bulk it out a bit. And I'm going to use smaller, shorter pieces on here, and I'm going to use the longer fir on the, I want to make garlands, so I'm going to use the longer ones on that. And then there we go, and layer that over just about 1 inch down. There we go, and just continue. in. So this part here needs a bit of covering. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that and tie that in. You could actually, if you were smart, you could actually use that last little bit as a hook, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna turn it back in that way. Now, for the middle here, I wonder, could I use a little bit of ivy? This was just some tree ivy that I found and cut down myself. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's actually lovely. Very nice. I'll just pop in the back here and I'll just actually just tuck it into the actual wood of the wreath, if I can. There we go. Now, then I could actually, this would actually, maybe, if I could, make this pretty, and hopefully it wouldn't strip the leaves. Oh, it's not going to strip the leaves. Pretty. Because the leaves are obviously what I want. Oh yeah, that's nice. That is so nice. I still want something there. Do you know what would be very nice is a little bow. But I actually don't have any ribbon. So I am going to just attach some holly instead. Pop it in. But a little bow there would be beautiful. There we go. I think that looks absolutely lovely. And I'm going to hang it on my door, maybe. So sweet. So you can make it however you want. And then as a hook then, I'm going to use a little bit of the wire. About that much, about a foot. I don't know if you can see that, but it's about a foot of wire. I think this must be called floristry wire or something. I actually don't know. I've had it in my stash for a long, long time. And then somehow make a hook. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to I don't want anything, it's ripping up the gloves. I don't want anything super sharp because I don't want it to actually damage my paint on my door. end just to make it pretty. Here we go. I think that's super cute. I hope that was useful. I had fun and I think it's lovely. So enjoy trying that out and do let me know. You can tag me on Instagram if you do try it out at Grace the Babbler. I'd love to see what you make. And thanks so much.